Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to introduce to you my new to me Jeep Wrangler. I got this for a pretty good deal. So this is a 2014 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon. It is the Hard Rock Edition, so it's got a couple nice bells and whistles on it. I've been enjoying my Rubicon. However, the original UConnect head unit that came with it is awful. So far, from my experience, it's been really slow. It's completely unintuitive, and trying to set up Bluetooth on this thing was really bad. Basically, on this kind of gear, you had to use the voice assistant throughout the entire process of getting your Bluetooth device connected to the UConnect unit, and it was a very tedious task, and overall, it just wasn't a great experience. Another problem I have with is trying to reverse this thing. With having a spare directly in your center line of sight, which also includes in your rear view mirror, it's kind of a pain trying to back this thing out. So I'm going to go ahead in this video swap out this head unit with a nicer one I found on Amazon, and as well installing a reverse backup camera that should make it significantly easier trying to back this thing out. This is my setup we're going to be going with today. So I bought a dedicated mount for the reverse cam. So this just attaches where the third brake light is, and also where your spare tire mount is on the back. And then this is the head unit I decided to go with, a appropriately named Tua. It's got a lot of nice features to it, but I will show you those later. We're first just going to begin by installing the reverse cam, just because that's going to take the most amount of time, just running that wire throughout the car. So let's go ahead and get this on the Jeep. Thankfully, installing the bracket's super easy. Pretty much all you got to do is you're going to mount it directly to your spare tire mount, and then you're simply just going to feed this wire through back here, and then run it through either one of these two grommet holes. So you'll see here soon. So running this through the grommet, what I did is, since this already kind of came pre-loomed, I just made a light incision just to separate this loom here. So, and also I went ahead and just made a relief cut inside this just silicone plug, just so that way it's kind of easy just to install this. So now it should be pretty simple of just separating the loom, making sure your relief cut is aligned with where the wire is. All right, and that should be weather tight. So let's go ahead and show you now the next process of just running the wire throughout the cabin. Next, we just got to remove this black trim piece inside the tailgate. So you usually just use a plastic pry tool just to get this on. So once you have that out, you should be able to pinch this just with your finger. And now we're just simply going to take the new harness and just run it along the existing factory wiring into the cabin, just so that way it's secure with the tailgate open and everything. I have a factory sub, so the process of trying to get this camera feed wire through this loom is a little more in-depth. So I believe on JK without a subwoofer, it's just some trim paneling you just need to remove just with some simple clips. With the subwoofer, it's a little more involved. You basically have to remove all these screws and remove a lot of this plastic paneling just to kind of get it in there. So I'm going to see if I can get away with just removing the sub from just this plastic enclosure, so I can get the wire fed through, and then move on to trying to have it fed to the front. So I guess I will be the test dummy for this, and you guys will see if this is something you can even do. Yeah, it looks like this entire plastic bezeling has to be removed just because it's kind of self-insulated from the tub of the Jeep. So let's go ahead and get this entire plastic enclosure removed. To remove this plastic enclosure, it looks like we just got to remove 2 T30 screws, one up front by the cigarette and one by the rear here, and then we should be able to then pop this panel off up here and separate the enclosure from this plastic piece in here and get this whole thing removed. That was kind of a pain in the ass. Basically, after you remove those 2 T30s, on the rear side of where this roll bar is, there's a 10 mil that holds this piece of plastic in, and it's not slotted. So you basically have to take the whole enclosure and lift up so that way it pops off the stud that's on the roll bar. And then also mine always kept getting caught with the plastic tray that was here. So I had to remove that out. And finally, after all that, I was able to remove this full enclosure. So with the enclosure moved out of the way, we can go ahead and mimic the same factory wiring of just running it through there into the tub and then start the process of moving it towards the front of the Jeep. Now I have the camera mimicking the wiring for the third brake light and for the door latches. So I'm going to go ahead and put all this trim back together and then start showing kind of how I ran the wire through the tub. So I peel back some of the carpet in the rear of the tub. What we're going to do is we're going to match the same factory wiring. So this is like for the rear defrost and for the rear wiper and stuff for the hardtop. So we're just going to match that same path, which is basically all it is running along underneath this carpet along the tub that goes from the underside of there all the way, goes underneath there, underneath the door sills towards the front of the radio. So we're just going to be doing the same thing. So all we're doing is we're just matching the factory wiring placement for the hardtop just for installing this rear cam. So nothing really special. As you can see, I have my wires nicely fed. So like I said, we're just following along the original factory wiring location, which all you got to do is peel back the carpet and just some of the plastic paneling and just mimic the same thing. I recommend zip tying it with the original wiring, so that way if you're off-roading, you don't have to worry about any of the wires moving around in there and possibly getting chafed. So, but if you don't, it's no big deal. So at this point, simply we just have to go from up here, hide it from inside the back of your glove box and feed it into this centerpiece where the head unit's at. And then we can finally put the new head unit in to make all this work. Removing the glove box in these is pretty simple. Pretty much all you got to do is push in the glove box on the sides and we'll just pull it forward. You'll see the whole thing comes out. So at this point, we're just going to go ahead and take that camera wire and feed it through here. Also, this might be a great time to change your cabin air filters while you're in there. These were mine and they're absolutely fucking trashed. Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin by now finally moving this head unit. So that's actually pretty simple. So first step on the top here where you have this little divider piece, you can just remove that out and you'll see there is I think this is like an 8 mil, I'm pretty sure, or a 7 mil, something like that. So you just gotta remove this piece out, and I think next all we're gonna do is remove this window switch out, and then we should be able to pull the plastic off with the head unit. After you remove the window switch and you remove these vents, there will be just another one of those 8 mils that are hidden underneath here, kind of where my finger is pointing. Okay. And then to remove out the last piece, right where my finger is, if you remove the kick panel, there's one additional
8mm that's hidden right here on the left side of where your steering wheel column is. You have to remove that, and then finally you can remove out the entire dash. We can just go ahead and remove out a lot of these wires, and we have the head unit removed. All right, so we can move on to now installing the Tua radio. I've got to hand it to them. The packaging for everything is really nicely bagged and sleeved. So even though this is a cheaper head unit, it's actually really nice packaging. I've gone through and started running a lot of the wires. So this one is for your GPS, and the other one here is for my mic. So the general path I kind of took for kind of getting these nicely tucked is I always begin first by just placing whatever I'm trying to do first in its final place where I want to put it, and then just kind of find a way to where it actually connects. So for instance, the GPS unit, I just kind of have it hidden and tucked in here. I know some people like to do it near the soundbar behind your head, but mine wasn't long enough for that, and I don't really think it's that big of a deal. The GPS one, as far as I know, it's just used for tracking your speed and then also for getting Sirius reception. So if you don't even have Sirius and you don't really care about that, you probably don't even have to run it. For the mic, I have to find some 3M tape because I'm just trying to match in a similar placement where the factory mic was. But for now, I just have it resting clipped here. But ultimately, I just kind of ran the wires along this pillar and then fed it through where the vent holes is, and fed it here and ran it along these clips here of where the gauge cluster is, and then fed it finally into where the center of the head unit will finally go. So with this head unit, it's a little different than other ones I've worked with. So a lot of the pigtails and stuff are removed, and you can kind of add them as you'd like. So for instance, this one of the harnesses you get is actually for your reverse cam. So if you have that wired up, make sure you actually plug that in. You have a lot of audio visual connections here. If you have a factory sub like I do, you don't have to use the factory sub RCA cable. So that's just if you have like an aftermarket one. But what is very nice about these is that the harness you get is direct fit for a Jeep JK. You don't need to go out and buy a separate unit and kind of wire it for the factory harness. So this is direct plug and play. So we're going to go ahead and start putting all this together with all my connections, and then hopefully mount this and just verify it turns on. All right, so looks like I've gone through all the connections and connected everything I could. So it does look like a few of the original things I don't have. So these are the antennas, for example. I think they make adapter kits for these. I'm gonna have to look around just for that. I haven't figured out exactly what this is yet, but this on my head unit, it doesn't plug into whatever this pigtail is for. So I guess I'll kind of figure out what that does. So either way, let's go ahead and begin feeding all these wires back and testing the head unit, just making sure it works before you actually commit to mounting everything in it again. All right, I went ahead and just put a couple screws in just so it doesn't kind of move around. So I'm gonna go ahead and power up the unit, and we will see if all my functionality is there. Okay, so far that looks good. All right, as you can see, I have everything put back together. And this is what the piece looks like with all the dash put back. Literally looks like an iPad just strapped to your Jeep, but it is pretty sweet. And just to show that the rear camera does indeed work, this is what it looks like with it currently set up. Since most of the work was trying to set up the wiring for the reverse cam, I guess I'll kind of just briefly go over. So this is a diagram that's included with the head unit. I tried using the camera that came with the bracket, and I had a lot of issues. I don't know if my unit was dead, but I used the same thing as this, of basically essentially having a trigger wire setup, which is your reverse lamp, and then having a constant 12 that comes off your power lead. Ultimately, I had to end up redoing my run for the rear cam, but it's no big deal. So basically you're just going to go ahead and tie in the black and red cables that come off your camera. I use a reverse lamp, so I'm pretty sure on the positive side it was a white and green wire, and then I just directly attached it to a black wire. And then for when it came to the side that was towards the head unit, I just tied into the brown wire that came off of the wiring harness. And then afterwards, that pretty much was it. You just have to make sure you plug it directly in to that additional pin here, because that one's dedicated for looking for that signal wire. So, but after that, it works pretty good. And that pretty much completes my install of the new head unit. I'd like to point out a couple things. One of the things is that this head unit just uses basically Android for the back end. So what it's been really nice about a lot of these aftermarket Android head units is that if there's any firmware issues or anything like that, honestly, most of these just connect to your Wi-Fi at home. You can download updates just so any bug updates can be pushed out, or even features. So I'm really starting to turn to like a lot of these Android head units rather than getting like a Sony head unit and just kind of getting the same experience of just whatever firmware is loaded onto it. Just a few features of using this head unit. So one of them is that you can actually map the buttons on your steering wheel to whatever you want. So if you don't like the original factory config, you can actually use this utility to remap it. Basically, just tap start down here and then just hit the button on the screen and then press the button that correlates to what's on your steering wheel. So you can actually adjust that if you'd like. And so obviously you retain the factory control of your steering wheel controls. You get complete customizability. There's all sorts of different themes you can pick on this. So even if you don't like the default look, obviously there's like a whole bunch you can pick from. You can even adjust the boot animation. I haven't done it yet, but like you can actually get like a Jeep logo so when you start the car, you see a flash of the Jeep logo appear across the screen. You have whatever EQ you want to set on this thing. I just kind of have it flat for now. Since this uses Android, any kind of bug updates that come through, you can actually update this head unit as they come through the manufacturer. You can also sideload custom APKs if you want. Same thing, you can grab stuff from the Play Store. So what's handy about that is you can play YouTube videos. If you want, you can install TikTok or whatever you want. And you can sit here and just watch YouTube videos or whatever you want if you're like at a gas station waiting to fill up or something. So that's kind of really cool to see. I can't really show the Android Auto part right now because it keeps hijacking the mic off my phone. But just know Android Auto works wirelessly on this thing, and it's been working great. I've been using this daily so far, and I've been really enjoying it, especially considering over what I had before with the stock radio. Definitely a great thing about the Jeep JK platform is that there's so much aftermarket out there that even when you buy head units on these things, they're pretty much already pre-wired and set up for your factory connections, and it's direct plug and play. Other than that, that's it for this video. I don't know how much more I'm really going to have video-wise when it comes to this specific car. I'm honestly just trying to keep it least modified as possible, just because I like to do a lot of highway driving. Anything that gets close to me possibly having death wobble, I'm not really interested in at this point. But if you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed seeing that head unit, and if I inspired you to install a brand new head unit on your Jeep JK, or even just trying to get a backup camera installed, please give the video a like. And if you want to see more future content updates, whether it be about this Jeep JK or any of my other vehicles that I got going on, please give my channel a subscribe.